Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jake Stu.
And today we're talking about Superman Batman Apocalypse. Released in 2010 and directed by Lauren Montgomery, written by Tab Murphy, and starring the late, great Kevin Conroy, Tim Daly, Andre Braugher, Summer Glau, Edward Asner, and Susan Eisenberg. And of course, it is based off the graphic novel Superman Batman Supergirl, written by Jeff Loeb and drawn by Michael Turner, the late great Michael Turner. Also the late great Edward Asner, who passed away too, not a few years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
But this again was one of the earlier DC animated films being released in 2010, so only 3 years after Superman Doomsday. And so they were still doing what we talked about with All-Star Superman, where they were kind of emulating the art from the graphic novel. So this is inspired by, I would say, by the art of Michael Turner.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Stu, when I first saw this one was my favorite one for a long time. I thought this movie was amazing when I first saw it. And I have not watched it in a while, but yeah, I thought this one was the top for a while. What about you?
Yeah, this one was pretty good when I watched it for the first time. I don't know if I would have called it my favorite because I can't remember what came out before this. Obviously, it was Public Enemies.
Yeah, Batman.
Doomsday.
Yeah, Under the Red Hood hadn't come out just yet.
No.
So yeah, it wasn't very many. Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, Doomsday, Batman, Gotham Knight, Green Lantern, First Flight. And maybe Wonder Woman. And that might have been
Batman Gotham Knight came out before this.
Yeah, Gotham Knight was and Justice League: The New Frontier.
Justice League: New Frontier.
Because Gotham Knight was the third or fourth movie that got released, I think, to coincide with The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So that one came out in 2008, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to do that one.
Maybe it'll be next.
Hey. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love the animation.
Yeah.
I like it so much better than Public Enemies.
It works. Yeah, I mean, I think it works a little better than Public Enemies is almost cartoon. Like, I mean, it's kind of funny saying this about an animated film, but it's almost cartoony. You know, how we talked about how like Superman, Batman, and even Lex Luthor all have the exact same body type. Shazam, Hawkman, they all look exactly the same. But that's just Ed McGuinness's style, and I like it. But yeah, I agree. This movie is, I don't know how to describe it. It's like less, sharper edges, less kind of round, like their faces are like more angular and things like that. I don't know.
It's more angular and less exaggerated.
Right.
Yeah, Public Enemies was very exaggerated. Like the like you said, their body types were the same, but they were huge
big
and ripped. They looked like they were on steroids.
Right. And Superman is pretty big in this movie. I'm looking at a shot of him right now, but it doesn't look absurd.
Right.
It's almost absurd in Public Enemies.
Yeah. I agree.
So the basic story of this movie is it's the introduction of Supergirl. And so the film opens up with, I think, a pretty cool scene with Kara's ship basically crashing into Gotham Harbor and Batman kind of responding and trying to figure out what has crashed in there. And then she accidentally takes off in his bat boat and crashes it. And then she gets her powers pretty quickly. She's like, I kind of, when she accidentally starts to fly, I've always kind of found that interesting. It's almost like she just, gravity leaves her and she's just kind of taking
floating
off into the sky and like a balloon that you let go of or something. And so I always found that kind of interesting and how quickly it works for her. But they do talk about how, Batman talks about how she absorbs the sun's energy faster and could be potentially stronger than Superman. So I guess it kind of makes sense that she, even though she crashed at night, how she would get her powers a little faster, I suppose.
Yeah, I looked it up one day, and they say Superman is stronger, but because Kara, at least in her modern version, is unhinged and doesn't hold back, she's perceived as stronger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Superman's always holding back a bit.
Right.
That makes sense. I can believe that.
If they both gave it their all, Superman is stronger than she is, but Superman is constantly holding back.
Yeah. So speaking of Superman, I really like how in this movie he's kind of the I guess you could say the one kind of making the mistakes. Like he just kind of immediately trusts. Well, I've always heard her name is Kara, but in this movie they call her Kara. But anyway, and like Batman and Wonder Woman both are like, we don't know who, she says she's your cousin, but like we don't know who this woman is.
Right.
And she's dangerous. She doesn't know how to use her powers. She doesn't know how to control herself. You are blinded by the fact that a family member may have just shown up. And I like that. I kind of like how Superman is kind of blinded by that. He's like, another Kryptonian is here that, is part of my family. Right. And he just immediately goes for it and accepts it and tries to protect her. And I like how that was portrayed in this movie a lot.
And it makes sense because, he, for the longest time, for 30 some odd years, he thought he was the only one.
Right, exactly.
So of course he would cling to someone who is, proclaiming themselves to be a Kryptonian. Let alone a Kryptonian, related to him.
Family member. Right, yeah, family, exactly. Yeah. I love the introduction of Wonder Woman. It's pretty much, it seems like they kind of use the comic almost as a storyboard, because we don't see Wonder Woman at first. We know it's her. She's got the lasso. And you see like the gauntlets or whatever when she crosses her arms and stops Kara's heat vision. And then, but it isn't until, Superman and Batman are like, you, and it shows her, with Supergirl and kind of a headlock type thing. And she's like, she's coming with me. It was just such a great moment.
Yeah, for sure. Like the story of this movie, obviously, so the thing about the animated movies, there's usually a lot going on in these movies, especially given how short they are.
Right.
But that being said, this movie, like on a basic structural kind of log line type level, it could be a live action movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I would be okay if this were a Superman film, like if it was like a sequel to Man of Steel.
Right.
And this is how Kara shows up. The only thing I would change, I probably wouldn't have Darkseid in the movie. I would make him something else, and I probably wouldn't have an army of Doomsdays.
Right. Yeah. You want to.
Other than that, I would pretty much keep the movie the same and just adapt it to live action.
Right. Yeah, I like that it's Darkseid in this, but you're right. If it was a live action movie, you'd maybe want to have it be a different villain. You could make it like Mongol or something,
Man, you took the word right out of my mouth. I was like, Mongol would have been perfect.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And you're right. You'd save kind of, especially if like it's a sequel to Man of Steel, like if Batman vs Superman hadn't happened, and so he hadn't died yet. You don't want to have an army of Doomsdays. It wouldn't make any sense. So it would be an army of something else, obviously. But
right.
And that is the one thing even in the comic, like it's cool. Obviously, it would be very frightening for Superman. The being that killed him an army of those things showing up.
Yeah, and I noticed. I thought about that too. I was like, why? He's awfully calm,
right?
To be seeing an army of the thing that killed him.
Yeah, it needed a bigger moment, and then they wipe him out pretty quickly. So it's like I almost wish it wasn't Doomsday either. I wish it was something else easier to wipe out. I do like how he does it. I like how he just kind of goes. He doesn't hold back, and his heat vision just obliterates them all. That was pretty great. But yeah, I don't think
they're not alive, are they?
They're not. Yeah, they say something about how like they're almost like I don't know if they're fake, but they're like they're not undead either. It's not like they're zombie Doomsdays, but they're just they're not alive. There was no blood, there was no heartbeat type of thing. It was just like they were kind of animated things. And so maybe that made him a little easier to kill too. But yeah, I wish there was a little bit more of a, worried look or something on Superman's face when they show up, just a little bit of more recognition. But yeah, that was, and apparently that army was a distraction. There was a second boom tube that opened so that Darkseid could kidnap Kara and bring her to Apokolips. So since we are talking about Darkseid, how do you feel about Andre Braugher as Darkseid's voice?
I wasn't really feeling it. I hate to say that because I like Andre Braugher.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling it.
You know what? I liked it a lot when I first saw the movie. But now that Zack Snyder's Justice League has come out, like Ray Porter is Darkseid, and I wasn't feeling it this time either. I was just like, nope. It doesn't work as well.
And I know what they were going for. They were trying to make it closer to the I don't know who did the voice on Superman the animated series.
Right. I don't either.
But they were trying to make it a little bit closer to that voice. But even that original voice to me is better than Andre Braugher. Because that voice, the voice actor that did that version of Darkseid, he didn't necessarily have the deepest voice, but it's crazy. It's crazy to say that Andre Braugher's voice isn't deep enough because that is,
right, yeah.
But I've always, like, when I'm reading the comics and I read Darkseid's voice, it sounds closer to Ray Porter than it does Andre Braugher or the OG Darkseid. But this was even before Zack Snyder's Justice League. Even when I was reading it as a kid, I always heard a deep rumbling, deep voice,
right,
like a Keith David type.
right, yeah. It's funny because I wonder how people read Thanos' voice in their head before Josh Brolin was cast, and if people thought Josh Brolin didn't have like a deep enough voice for Thanos and stuff.
Josh Brolin is perfect.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I was watching Marvel What If today, and I watched the episode where T'Challa becomes Star-Lord.
Right.
And Thanos was one of the supporting characters. I was like, man, they really nailed Thanos. Like, I mean, of course, the MCU Thanos is pretty different from comic Thanos, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Like Josh Brolin's Thanos is peak superhero villain.
Right, I agree.
What did you think of the characterization of Darkseid, like how he was represented?
I liked it in this. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it seems pretty close to how I've always kind of seen Darkseid. We see him as the leader of Apokolips. We don't really see him do a whole lot. He's kind of just like, we see Granny Goodness doing more in terms of like trying to find this leader and stuff. And it isn't until the third act where we finally kind of see Darkseid doing some stuff. He just kind of, like, when they go to Apokolips, he's just kind of sitting there and being like, she's free to go if she wishes, and then it's the fight between Kara and Superman, and it isn't until the third act when he shows up in Smallville that he kind of is. But even then, I really like him. He's very stoic. You know, he still has like his arms behind his back when he's talking to them and everything. So, yeah, I think it works pretty well. What about you?
Yeah, I liked it, but I think again, Zack Snyder's Justice League spoiled me.
Sure.
I like the idea of him being a looming presence.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily see him, but you feel him,
right?
And it's creepy. Like I just spoiled by Zack Snyder's Justice League because the way Zack Snyder handled Darkseid was, it's not gonna get no better.
Right.
But yeah, I did like how he was represented in this movie. I thought it fit this movie. That darker looming presence probably wouldn't have fit quite as well,
right?
With this movie, but it might have been underwhelming given the circumstances of the movie. But I thought I thought it fit the movie pretty well. But I would have preferred to do it darker.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about Apocalypse. Like that's the part that is on right now for me. I'm watching the movie.
Me too.
And Superman appears to be punching fire. That's one part I didn't really quite understand. This big mechanical dog tank thing shows up and breathes fire, and he literally punches it. Which I thought was weird. But what do you think about the overall kind of look and design of Apocalypse and the creatures from Apocalypse and things like that?
I don't mind it. I mean, Apocalypse has always been red and fiery and hot and it just looks like a big factory.
Right.
I've always seen it that way. So I mean,
yeah. I like the red and the fire is cool. I think I don't know if I love these big tank things that breathe fire. I don't know if I totally like those, or like at least the look of them. And the big dogs, I thought was kind of, I don't know, cheesy a bit. I don't know. Maybe that's comic accurate as well. I'm not sure, but and then like Batman's flying like a jetpack that I guess he found on Apocalypse. And they don't really explain that.
I don't remember.
He literally just put it on and then just took off. So I don't know if
it's not it doesn't really look like an
Apocalypse
jetpack. His feet are on it. It looks like the thing that Darkseid's son, Orion, I think that's his name, Orion.
That he flies?
He used to ride one of those things.
So maybe it is an Apocalypse vehicle.
Yeah. Or a new God's vehicle.
Or there you go. I love Edward Asner's Granny Goodness. I know he played Granny Goodness too on Justice League and maybe even Superman the Animated Series. Haven't. And Susan Eisenberg, of course, is back as Wonder Woman, and Kevin Conroy and Tim Daly. So it's a cool like kind of reunion of voices. Even though Tim Daly wasn't the Superman on Justice League, it was George Newbern, right?
Yeah.
But still, it's cool. And I think he's so good as Granny Goodness, actually.
Yeah, he is. He's very good as Granny Goodness. It was nice to hear Tim Daly as Superman. I've always preferred George Newbern, but it gave me a nice fuzzy feeling to hear Tim Daly's voice.
Yeah, I hear you.
Took me back to being a little kid.
I'm currently trying to very slowly because I just have no free time, but I'm trying to rewatch Superman the Animated Series, and I'm probably almost 2/3 of the way through. I'm probably a little bit more than 2/3 of the way through. And I've always liked Tim Daly as Superman. I think was a very good casting choice.
Yeah, agreed. I cannot wait for you to get to Justice League and Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic shows.
Yeah. I've seen, a handful of episodes of Justice League and like one or two unlimited episodes. So I am really looking forward to kind of just sitting down and and marathoning that whole series.
Did you see the first episode of Justice League Unlimited?
I don't know.
Green Arrow is pretty much the main character in that particular episode.
Yeah, I think I have, where they're trying to recruit Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that one.
That episode is like a Justin episode. Like I can't really describe it, but it's definitely one you'll like.
Yeah. I need to I'm looking forward to rewatching it. Another one I saw, I think it was an Unlimited episode, is where like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, or the whole league, gets turned into like children.
Kids, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that episode.
Yeah, by Mortar. Yeah, he's a kid, like a dark prince, and he turns him into kids. It's funny. But
yeah, other than that, I don't think I've seen any other. I may have seen one Aquaman episode of Unlimited. I can't remember now, but
was Aquaman in Unlimited?
If not, I know maybe that was the regular Justice League.
Yeah, episode. I know he was in the OG. He might have been in Unlimited. I'm not sure.
Maybe I'm getting it confused. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to rewatching that. The action scenes in this movie are pretty good.
Yes.
I'm watching right now. That's the Wonder Woman Barda fight against the Furies, and that one I thought they did a really good job, kind of choreographing the fight scene.
I agree. I actually don't mind these big dogs.
No.
Yeah, the big dogs don't bother me. Even the tanks didn't bother me that much.
I guess it's just my little nitpicky.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, if this was live action, this would be a dope scene.
With the dogs?
Yeah, this would be dope. I love the look of Batman in this movie. I love the long ears, like the flowy cape and the hyper stylized bat. Like it's really, really comic booky, but in the best way.
Right, yeah. There's a couple times in the beginning of the movie where he's talking to Kara, where his cape like completely covers up like his entire body. And he almost looks kind of, vampiric, like he's like.
That is something that I want to see in the next Batman movie.
Oh, yeah?
Because we haven't gotten that since Batman Begins. When he was perched on the gargoyle and his entire body was covered in his cape.
Yeah.
That was an incredible Batman shot. And that was the last time we got a shot. I haven't
really seen that since. You're right. But yeah, that's total Michael Turner. That's how he drew him. And, and they do a good job of adapting that for the movie. And yeah, I like the look of Batman in this movie too. He looks really cool.
Yeah, there's another artist who draws Batman very similar. He has like extremely long ears and a very long cape. I can't remember the name of the artist, but it was a comic book that I read when I was a kid. I believe it came out in the 90s. It was I think it was after Nightfall.
Okay.
So after Dick Grayson and Azrael had been Batman, but he was fighting this or looking for this serial killer called the Sleeper, who was like a witch, like putting people under spells and like sacrificing them to this like god of death.
Oh wow.
But it was like, it was a detective story, but it had like scary, supernatural
kind of elements.
Yeah. It was dope. It was a very cool story. And I remember how the first issue ended. Batman had gotten caught in under her spell and was like freaking out, and that's where it ended. I could not find the next issue for the life of me.
That sucks.
I should look it up and try to finish that story, because the way that first issue ended was dope. But I remember always loving how Batman looked, like the very elongate, like his ears were like as long as his head.
right.
And it was so cool. He always drew Batman like crouched over and like his whole cape it like just engulfing his whole body. And he like, because it was a detective story, Batman always had a magnifying glass and like was looking like it was just it was so cool. It was like a really dope dark representation
Yeah.
of Batman,
That's
especially coming after Nightfall, which was like really action heavy. To go back to like the noir side of Batman, it was really cool.
That is really cool. That sounds awesome. I'd be interested to read that too.
Yeah, she was a dope villain. I wish I could. I gotta see if I can find those other 2 issues, because I think it's a 3-issue arc.
Okay.
Think of Evil Kara.
I think it's a cool idea. You know, I think it's fun to see Kara and Superman kind of fighting on Apokolips. The look of her is it's another very kind of Michael Turner. And so the look of her, I think, is, I don't know, I would maybe do it a little differently, especially if I was doing a live action.
Tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It's given some very dominatrix vibes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Michael Turner, I remember he did a comic, I think, called like Witchblade or something. And I remember I never really read it, but I remember seeing covers for it all the time. And he was very kind of, it was his style to draw like very women like wearing not much, you know, and kind of revealing clothing. And so that's obviously continued even in this story. And so that's kind of what Kara's wearing, you know, when she's evil Kara. And so it's just, like I said, it's just kind of it was Michael Turner's style. And they, you know, I'm glad they adapted it that way and stuff, but I don't know. I would probably change it. Tone it down, like you said.
The female characters in like Image Comics.
Mm-hmm.
I used to read this I used to read their version of the Justice League. It was called The Brigade. But it was more street level and a little less godlike. But yeah, they were the female characters in that were very what's the word I'm looking for? One that I can say for the podcast. I don't know.
Scantily clad.
They were very scantily clad. And of course, for, you know, a 12-year-old boy, that's awesome.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you're young and looking at comics, you're like, this is amazing. How do you feel about Summer Glau as Kara, as Supergirl?
Oh, she was perfect.
Yeah, I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah. Other than like the OGs, you know, Tim Daly, Susan Eisenberg, Kevin Conroy, her casting was the best.
Yeah.
Other than those 3, like, she was fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, I thought she was amazing. I really kind of almost wish she would have shown up in other animated movies, you know, or that version of Kara and everything. Yeah. This probably will be a short episode because I can't think of a whole lot else to say. I do want to talk about the end of the film. So one of the things I really like about this movie, and I kind of like, it's the exact same in the comic, but I think it works really well in the movie form, is they saved Kara from Apokolips. Mm-hmm. Batman kind of outsmarts Darkseid, which is cool. And he says, you know, you have my word, I'm not going to go after the girl. Mm-hmm. And the movie kind of feels like it's over. You know, it feels like we're in the resolution, the final scenes. And Clark is bringing Kara to Smallville. I love, too, that when they see the sign for Smallville, it's like from the show Smallville. It looks like that sign. And even the farm actually looks a lot like the farm from the show.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that. But
then right as there, you know, Clark says something like, if I know my mom, she's going to have her apple pie bacon in the oven. And as soon as he gets to the door, Darkseid's fist just comes through the door and knocks Superman out. And, doesn't knock him out, but knocks him back. And I love that there's this whole fight scene between Darkseid and the 3 of them as kind of the final moments of this movie. And I think for a while that was why this movie is my favorite of the animated movies, because I thought this fight scene between Darkseid and Kara and Superman was amazing.
It's good. Like, I like it. It just, the idea of Darkseid in Smallville is like,
is weird to you. Yeah. I get it. That makes sense. It does work for me, but yeah, it is. It is weird. I also thought too about like the amount of times you see like a mushroom cloud basically, or like these sonic shocks. I'm like, everybody in Smallville's like, what is happening? You know, because surely, you know, people
Kansas is like flat. So.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's hearing it and seeing it, and
right.
They may not know what's going on, but they are definitely feeling it.
Yeah, there are no rolling hills in,
right, exactly.
in Kansas.
Not really, no.
What did Kevin Costner say? He called it flat as a pancake? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
They would definitely see everything.
I was confused for a little bit because, you know, we do see Darkseid punch Superman and hit him with the Omega beams.
Uh-huh.
But then Kara fights Darkseid for a really long time, and I'm like, where's Superman? I was like, what has happened to Superman? And then it cuts, and you see him floating into space. I was like, oh, Darkseid really...
He knocked him out.
Yeah, and he just kept going. But then he, you know, of course, he in space kind of gets into the line of the sun and gets all energized again and comes back down to... Doesn't quite take out Darkseid, but they definitely give Darkseid a run for his money.
Yeah.
And I do like how it's kind of weird. I guess it's something I never really thought about with boom tubes, but that there would be like a little controller for them. But I guess it makes sense. I guess you gotta, you know, like I think about like in Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's just like the boom tube kind of shows up, the character comes through, and then a boom tube opens again and he leaves. It's like nobody's really like got a pad that you see anyway.
Yeah.
But in this, there is like a controller for it, and so Kara reprograms it so that way he doesn't go back to Apocalypse. He just is floating out in space, which I thought was kind of cool.
Right.
And he's going to be very upset whenever he gets thawed out, as she says, and found.
I noticed that during the fight, they kind of make a nod to her look in Justice League and Superman the animated series with the T-shirt.
Right, her shirt gets ripped a little, and so it kind of looks that is true.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
that's probably always going to be my favorite version of Supergirl.
Yeah,
is the animated series version. She's awesome.
I'm like 2 episodes away from her introduction on Superman the animated series. In fact, the two episodes I got to watch first are the Darkseid episodes. It's like Tales of Apocalypse Part 1 and Part 2 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
She is wailing on Darkseid right now.
She is, and I love the part where she is escaping his Omega beams and then comes out behind him, grabs him by the head and like flips him over so that he gets hit by his Omega beams. I was like, like I said, the kind of the fight choreography for this animated film is top notch.
Very well thought out.
Yeah. Just off the top of my head, I feel like Flashpoint Paradox is probably still my favorite animated film out of the DC animated movies, but this one I feel like is probably still near the top, but I think there's a lot of other good ones that have come out.
Yeah.
That would probably be above it.
Yeah, I like it as far as like yeah, as far as all of them, I got quite a few.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would I don't think this one is in my top, but it's still very good.
Yeah.
But I can think of maybe 6 or 7 that I enjoy more.
Yeah. Well, since we're kind of already talking about it, you want to talk about a rating?
Yeah.
So what would you give Superman Batman Apocalypse?
I'm going back and forth. It's good, and I definitely enjoyed it. This would be my 3rd time watching it since its release. And each time I've watched it, I've enjoyed it. I really like it, but I can't quite say I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But not quite as strong a 4 as I would normally give.
Right.
So it's a 4, but it's a weak 4.
It's a weak 4. It's leaning towards 3.5.
Yeah, it's leaning towards 3.5.
Yeah. Mine, I'm going to give it the same score. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5, but mine's a stronger 4 out of 5. It's not as weak. I really, really like it. I'm kind of with you. I don't know if I quite love it, but I do think it's really good. I think the casting is pretty much perfect. I think the animation's really good. So yeah, I don't know, there's just a couple of little things maybe that are kind of keeping me from giving it, a higher score. But and part of it is I remember liking it a lot, like loving it. I remember loving it, and this time around I didn't quite have that same feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because there's other movies that have come out that are better, or Andre Braugher didn't do it for me like he did before. I don't know,
I think you hit it. I think other movies have come out that are better. This is still in the beginning stages of the DC animated movies. There's, I think by this point there were maybe 6.
Yeah, there weren't very many at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so out of those 6, it was, it was probably, it was my favorite probably out of those 6.
Yeah. And now we probably north of 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. At the time that it came out, it probably was the best one.
Yeah.
But now we've gotten so much more
right.
that is better.
Yeah.
So,
which is good. It's great. I love that they're still putting out these animated movies, a couple of them a year, because
there's still a market for them.
There's still, and I'm so happy for that, because I remember thinking back around when these, probably when this one came out, or maybe a couple past this, I remember thinking like, I hope they don't stop doing this, because I'm really enjoying them. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, I have liked. I mean, there's been a couple of stinkers in there, but which we haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah,
but
there's not many
at all. For the most part, they have done a really good job with the animated movies, and so I hope they continue it.
Yeah, there's only a handful of bad eggs in the batch, so.
Yep. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also tweet at us or comment on our Instagram. Both handles are at CinemaHeroes. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Give the video a thumbs up. And subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. But I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.